The year is 264 BCE. Imagine a world where the most powerful military machine on Earth was utterly helpless on water. Rome, masters of the legion, had never fought a war beyond the boot of Italy. The solution they found was strange, audacious, and arguably a bit clumsy, but it would change everything. Before the Romans' new solution met the battlefield, the Mediterranean was Carthage's domain. For centuries, this formidable North African trading empire had built its wealth and power on naval supremacy. Their warships, particularly the Quinquereme, a powerful galley propelled by 5 banks of oarsmen, were masterpieces of ancient engineering. They were fast, maneuverable, and crewed by sailors whose lives were spent on the waves. Carthaginian naval tactics revolved around speed, ramming maneuvers, and intricate formations designed to outflank and shatter enemy vessels. Naval warfare was a specialized art, perfected over generations. Rome, by contrast, was a land power, rooted deeply in its fertile Italian soil. Their military might was defined by the legion, disciplined, heavily armed infantry, masters of close-quarters combat, siege warfare, and disciplined formations. Roman military doctrine emphasized direct confrontation, overwhelming force, and breaking enemy lines through sheer physical impact. The sea was merely a barrier, a means of trade, not a field of battle. They possessed no significant fleet, no tradition of naval combat, and certainly no expertise in ramming or sophisticated galley maneuvers. Their few ships were humble, mostly transport vessels, no match for Carthage's seasoned war machines. When the conflict spilled from the land of Sicily onto the vast blue expanse of the Mediterranean, the strategic imbalance was glaring. Carthage controlled the supply lines, dictated the terms of engagement, and could reinforce their positions at will. Rome's legions were stranded, unable to project their power across the water. The conventional wisdom was clear. Rome could never win a naval war against Carthage. And if they couldn't win at sea, they couldn't win the war. But Rome wasn't one to simply accept conventional wisdom. Facing naval annihilation, Rome did what Rome did best. They innovated with ruthless pragmatism. The story goes that they reverse-engineered a captured Carthaginian Quinquereme that had been shipwrecked. Working frantically, they built an entire fleet from scratch, 100 Quinqueremes and 20 triremes, in just 60 days. This was an astonishing feat of industrial organization, showcasing their unparalleled engineering and logistical capabilities. But simply building the ships wasn't enough. They still lacked trained sailors and naval expertise. Their generals, desperate, knew they couldn't beat Carthage at their own game. They had to change the game entirely. And so, born out of necessity and brilliant tactical thinking, came Rome's secret weapon, the corvus. Imagine a towering wooden pole, about 20 feet high, mounted prominently on the bow of a Roman warship. From its top, a massive gangplank, approximately 36 feet long and 4 feet wide, hinged downwards. This wasn't just a simple bridge. At its far end, beneath the plank, a fearsome iron spike, shaped like a crow's beak and weighing hundreds of pounds, was poised to strike. The entire contraption could swivel from side to side, rotating on a massive pivot point. When an enemy ship approached, the Roman crew would swing the corvus into position. At the precise moment of impact, or even just before, a rope system would release the gangplank, sending it crashing down onto the enemy deck. The heavy iron spike would then anchor deep into the timbers, locking the two ships together. No ramming, no intricate maneuvers, just a brutal, inescapable embrace. This wasn't just an invention, it was a declaration. Rome would not fight a sea battle. They would fight a land battle at sea. The first true test of this audacious new weapon came in 260 BCE off the coast of Mylae, Sicily. The Carthaginian fleet, confident in their superior seamanship, approached the untested Roman navy with contempt. Their formation was loose, their crews anticipating an easy victory. But they were about to face a shock. As the Carthaginian ships closed in, intending to ram or outflank, the Roman vessels suddenly presented their bows, deploying their bizarre new device. Imagine the Carthaginian sailors' confusion, then their horror, as these monstrous wooden crows slammed onto their decks, the spikes biting deep, locking them fast. Once secured, Rome's elite marines, their veteran legionaries, who they ironically called Marini, surged across the gangplank. These were not sailors. They were hardened infantry, trained for brutal hand-to-hand combat. They poured onto the Carthaginian decks, turning what should have been a fluid naval engagement into a brutal claustrophobic melee. The Carthaginian crews, trained for swift ship-to-ship maneuvers, were suddenly fighting disciplined Roman infantry on their own territory. They were outmatched, outfought, and overwhelmed. The results were devastating. At Mylae, Rome's navy, barely months old, captured an astonishing 30 enemy vessels, including the flagship of the Carthaginian admiral Hannibal Gisco. It was an unthinkable, ignominious defeat for the masters of the Mediterranean. Far from being a one-time trick, the corvus signaled a profound shift in Roman thinking. They didn't just want to survive at sea, they wanted to dominate. In 258 BCE, the corvus helped them secure another victory at Sulci. Then, in 256 BCE, at the Battle of Ecnomus, one of the largest naval battles in history, involving hundreds of thousands of men, the corvus once again proved its worth, helping to break the formidable Carthaginian formation across 3 separate engagements. This wasn't brute force alone. It was an evolving naval doctrine, using tools like the corvus to compensate for their inexperience, turning a profound weakness into a decisive strength. The Mediterranean was no longer Carthage's private pond. The corvus was undeniably effective, but its brilliance came with significant drawbacks. It excelled in calm, placid waters, allowing for precise deployment and stable boarding. But the Mediterranean, for all its beauty, could be a tempestuous beast. In storms, with ships pitching and rolling violently, the corvus became a dangerous liability. When 2 ships were locked together by the spike, the constant motion of the waves could rip their hulls apart, or even capsize one or both vessels. Worse, the sheer weight of the corvus itself, mounted high on the bow, created a significant stability problem for the Roman quinqueremes. These were already heavy ships, designed for ramming and carrying a large crew. The added mass of the corvus, estimated by some scholars to be over a ton, raised the ship's center of gravity. This made them less stable, more prone to listing, and far more vulnerable in rough seas. The consequences were catastrophic. In 255 BCE, a massive Roman fleet of hundreds of ships heading back from Africa was caught in a violent storm off the coast of Sicily. Accounts describe ships being tossed like toys, the heavy corvus acting like a lever, exacerbating the instability. Nearly an entire Roman fleet was lost. Again, in 249 BCE, another Roman fleet suffered a similar fate in a storm near Drepana. The losses were staggering, wiping out years of shipbuilding and countless lives. Naturally, many blamed the corvus. Was this ingenious solution actually a fatal flaw? Modern scholars like J.W. Bonebacker have debated this. He calculated that a 1-ton corvus on a 250-ton quinquereme likely wasn't enough on its own to cause a capsize. Perhaps it was the combination of the corvus, Roman crews' inexperience in heavy weather, and perhaps ships overloaded with troops and supplies. Whatever the precise reason, Rome recognized the critical vulnerability. This was the cost of their innovative shortcut. The corvus had bought them time, but at a horrifying price. The cracks in their initial hack were showing, and the hard lessons of the sea were being etched in shipwrecks. Rome, ever the pragmatist, learned quickly. By the time of the final decisive battle of the First Punic War at the Aegates Islands in 241 BCE, the corvus was largely gone, either removed from the ships entirely or used only in highly specific, calm conditions. Rome won the battle anyway, confirming their newfound mastery of naval warfare. They had learned to outsail Carthage, to execute ramming maneuvers, and to fight effectively on the open sea without their crutch. The corvus was a stepping stone, a tactical bridge, literally and metaphorically. It wasn't the sole reason Rome won the war. It was how they bought themselves the crucial time to learn, to build, to adapt, and eventually to truly master the sea. It bought them the initial victories that allowed their fledgling navy to survive long enough to evolve. By 36 BCE, during the Battle of Naulochus against Sextus Pompey, Rome had moved far beyond the corvus. Their new tool was the harpax, a refined, lighter harpoon and winch system. It still pulled ships together for boarding, but with more flexibility, less weight, and no risk of capsizing. It was the next logical step in their evolution of naval boarding tactics. The corvus helped transform Rome from a landlocked republic, reliant on its legions, to the undeniable master of the Mediterranean Sea. It was crude, heavy, and perhaps even dangerous. But in those early, uncertain years, when an empire's very existence hung in the balance, it was enough. It enabled Rome to take its first wobbly steps onto the global stage, laying the foundation for an empire that would span continents, forever defining the course of Western civilization. It proved that ingenuity, even clumsy ingenuity, could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Thanks for watching. For clear, compelling history, subscribe to Long History Short, your shortcut to the whole story.